Welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast, a production from Empowering Pumps and Equipment as the voice of the pump and related equipment industries. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast. I'm your host, Charli Matthews. I'm really excited about our next guest. SWAPA is how I found him. And so if you don't know what SWAPA is, it's the Submersible Wastewater Pump Association. And so I went and I was part of their, training and I guess committee meeting. And then I felt like I learned a lot. So training wise, as we go in Chicago to the Metropolitan Water Reclamation Center. And you'll have to tell us a little bit about that, Brian. So thank you, Brian, for being here. It was just a pleasure to meet you. And I just felt like there's a little bit more to his story. And so I wanted to dive into that. Personally, I could see that environmental side of you. So I'll let you just start with kind of who you are and what you do, Brian.
Hi, thank you, Charli. Thank you for having me. So I'm Brian Levy. I'm a principal engineer at the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. Yes, it's a mouthful. But we like government agency, so we like our acronyms. It's either MWRD or sometimes the district for short. So I'm a principal engineer here, and I'm in charge of the treatment operations for our Stickney Water Reclamation Plant.
Yes, thank you. I'm so glad you said that. You said it so well. I would have to practice that quite a bit. But I also just thought, principal engineer there's so much that you have to coordinate, organize, and then you're telling us about, sometimes there's crises that happen and kind of have to jump into action to solve them too. So if you could tell us a little bit more about that role as a principal engineer before we go on.
So my role here is in charge of treatment plant operations. So on the Stickney Water Reclamation Plant is one of the largest plants in the world. It could treat up to 1.4 billion gallons of water. And so my role is the day-to-day operations of the plant for routine operations, which is normal. We're treating wastewater, but we also have the responsibility of our collection system for all of Chicago land region and making sure that all the stormwater and wastewater gets to where it needs to go.
Yes. And so kind of prior to you being here, how did you find yourself here? How did you get into this space? I know by background, you're a civil engineer, but tell us, I guess, start there. Why'd you choose engineering?
So I'm my Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering from Marquette University. After I finished my undergrad, I started working here at the MWRD. And then I'm also got my Master's of Science in Environmental Engineering from Illinois Institute of Technology. So how I became an engineer is, well, when I was a kid, I loved to play with Legos. And when growing up, I always thought I wanted to be an architect. And then when I got into high school and I kind of learned about architecture, I realized there was a lot of art involved, and I was not that artistic. I could not make things aesthetically pleasing. I couldn't draw, but I was really good with math and science. So it kind of grew towards the STEM field. Engineering was kind of a perfect fit for me, especially when you're in engineering. There is a lot of design involved in engineering, but you don't, at a wastewater treatment plant, you don't need to make it look good. You just have to make it functional.
Yeah, that's so true. There's different styles of engineering, different styles of, everybody has to be creative at times. So there's that, but whether you're a true pencil to paper artist or not, I think that is the difference. There is a lot of hand drawing, I guess, more in that. Oh, it's probably not hand drawing anymore in architecture, but I'm fascinated with, the water industry. One, people don't know how they get it. They don't understand the process. And so I really enjoyed your tour where you kind of went through the process of cleaning up the water. So this is the dirty water that's coming in. But you also told me about the kind of that the waterways, right? And being in that stormwater. So I was curious about that. What drove you, to that and that environmental side of your career?
So yeah, the first part of my career here at the Water Reclamation District, I worked on our waterways section. And that is a section that handled our Chicago River and the canal system. So a bit of history here, the Water Reclamation District reversed the flow of the Chicago River over 100 years ago. It used to flow into Lake Michigan. Now it flows away from Lake Michigan down south and ultimately ends up into the Gulf of Mexico. So in college, I took a lot of hydraulics and hydrology courses, and I kind of gravitated towards that in undergrad. When in grad school, I took a lot of wastewater courses. So I kind of have a knowledge of both sides of things, and we kind of do both here at the district. Handle a lot of the stormwater side of things. So when it rains, all that water needs to go somewhere. Chicago and a lot of the suburbs are built on a combined sewer system, meaning that one pipe for both sanitary and stormwater. And that water has to go to our interceptor system, which brings it to our wastewater treatment plant. And at the wastewater treatment plant is where I actually take over and we actually treat that wastewater to get it a good quality water to put it back into our water environment and making sure it's meeting our permits and our water quality standards.
Yes, and it's a fabulous facility, y'all. If you've been following me, maybe you saw some of the pictures that I posted on LinkedIn. But let's start with the huge intake pumps. They're so old, but they're still there. I know we're working on them. We've maintained them through changing out impellers. But tell us the story of those pumps.
Yeah, so they were put in 1939. And that's when the plant went in the surface. So they're approaching 100 years here. So they're getting a little old, long in the tooth, but they work. Obviously, the motors have been replaced. And originally, they were steam-driven pumps. So we would have coal that was barged from areas and various boilers heating these coal to create steam for these pumps. They were changed out in the 1940s to electric motors, and now they're all electric. But the pumps still work, and they work well. And every year, we basically take one or two out of service in order to do some preventative maintenance to it. But they're trustworthy, so we use them. They're large pumps. They could be 240 million gallons a day pumping, and they pump about 50 feet up above, so 50 foot ahead. So like I said, our plant could treat up to 1.4 billion gallons a day. So in order to treat that, you need large pumps. A stat I usually like the state is 1.4 billion gallons. That's 1,400 million gallons a day. There's 1,440 minutes in a day. So we could pump and treat 1 million gallons every minute. So the average wastewater treatment plant in the United States is about 1 million gallons a day. So what they do in one day, we could do in 1 minute.
It's phenomenal. I mean, it really is the amount of design. You were talking about design earlier, but just the craftsmanship of engineering a plant like that to run and be able to take care of that. I just love thinking about how, somebody's sitting around, well, why don't we reverse the river? Like this will solve the problem, right? Like just this is a problem that needed to be solved so that the health issues of Chicago could be transformed, really. So I love that. I love the engineering mind that has solved these problems for us, and the layout of the plant. And we walked through it with SWAPA and the members, and everybody is just intrigued about a different part of it. And so I'm curious because I see pumps everywhere. So we talked about some of those larger pumps. And then you look across and you see there's some other pumps just across the way that are either, effluent pumps or something like that. And so it takes a pump to make a pump, and it takes many pumps to run a pump. So it was just really kind of neat to see that. Any guesses on how many? pieces of equipment are there?
Millions, thousands.
A
Yeah, I
lot.
mean,
There's a lot.
there's a lot, and it's not just me who runs this place. I mean, I handle the treatment operation side of things, but we have a whole maintenance section of things that are constantly doing preventative maintenance, corrective action maintenance, predictive maintenance on all of our pumps and blowers and other various equipment throughout the whole plant.
Absolutely. So, what do you think we can do to better protect our water?
Well, water is a very precious resource, especially here in the Chicagoland area. And we're very fortunate to have the Great Lakes. And it's a very important resource for not only the health and well-being of people, since we get such clean water, but it's also a good resource for a lot of industry throughout the Midwest region. We have a population of about 5 million people that we serve in Cook County. There's about 3 million people in the city of Chicago, about 5 million people for all of Cook County. But we have a population equivalency of about 10 million people because of all that industry in this area. So that's very important. So we got to make sure that we're protecting our water environment. We're protecting Lake Michigan since it's such a key resource. One thing that we do is we have these wastewater treatment plants. We invest in our infrastructure. We take care of our plants. We maintain it. We meet our permits. We are doing a lot with building resilient infrastructure. We put in large tunnels and reservoirs to capture that combined sewage, but we're also working and doing a lot of green infrastructure for building bioswales and rain gardens to capture that stormwater. We're looking in and meeting all of our permit regulations, and permit regulations are getting tougher. We just recently have a phosphorus limit that was put into place in August of 2021. So permits are getting more stringent. Infrastructure is getting older. So it's kind of blending all this infrastructure, this old infrastructure with these kind of new limits that we have. A lot of things that I get this asked when I give tours, what can I do as a resident? Well, one thing you got to realize is when you live in the region that we have, and whether you wash your hands, you brush your teeth, or something is going down that drain. Okay, and a lot of people don't know where it goes. It kind of goes to some sort of mystery area, maybe to the center of the earth. I think I gave a lot of tours to school children, and one girl said, "Oh, I think it goes in the middle of the earth." So I said, "No, it comes here to wastewater treatment plant. We need to protect that water because eventually we treat that water, and we put it back into the waterway system. But we can't treat for everything. So just kind of be mindful of what you're flushing down the drain, because what you're flushing down the drain eventually makes it back into that environment."
Yes, and that reminds me of different paints and things. There are processes, and just try to be aware, educate yourself on what can be cleaned up. I think it's a great tool. And then
Mhm.
what do we do with the waste? I thought it was really cool what you were telling us about how we're using some of that waste for energy, working with some other clients, or fertilizing
Mhm.
as well. So well, you use it within your own plant for energy, which is amazing. And then also kind of that outside fertilizer. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So one of the byproducts that happens from wastewater treatment plant, when dirty water comes in and we get clean water come out, but there's a lot of steps in between that. And one of the things that we do is we remove the solids out of the water, and we actually like to call it biosolids. So, and that biosolids is a byproduct of wastewater treatment. We take that biosolids and we treat it in anaerobic digesters, where we age it for 20 days and we create biogas. So that's just methane, and we use that methane to heat our boilers, and the boilers heat water to boil water to create steam. That steam, we utilize that steam for heating our buildings in the winter, and then actually cooling our buildings in the summer. We have absorption chillers, and then also various other parts of the plant that need steam. So we're trying to become energy neutral to be able to utilize all of our resources that we have. Another byproduct that we have is biosolids, and that we use is a very good fertilizer that farmers love because there's a lot of macro and micronutrients for the soil for that plants.
Yeah, I thought that was so interesting, and just another thing that we can do. I think we have to be mindful about it, intentional to have any type of sustainability. It's the problem solvers of the world, which are it is our engineers by title, so that's one of you. But it's also all of us. We all have a creative and the ability to be creative in the ways that we are reducing energy.
Mhm.
So just keep that in your mind. Anything else that you want to make sure that our listeners know from you?
Um, no, so the water reclamation district, it's I work at the Stickney plant. It's one of 7 of our plants. So we have 7 throughout the Chicagoland area, Stickney's being the largest of our plants and one of the largest in the world. We were put we were starting in 1900 is when we first reversed the flow of the Chicago River. And you touched on this earlier, that the solution to pollution was dilution back then. But we knew that that wasn't the end game. We knew that we had to build wastewater treatment plants. We knew that we had to do better. And we continue still to strive. Sometimes there might be a little bit discussions of who is the biggest wastewater treatment plant. I might not disagree or agree with some people. I know that some other big metropolitan areas has large treatment plants, and I always tell people this. I'm like, all right, we may not be the biggest, but I always think we're the best.
Yes, and I got to tour another one of your plants where you go down under the ground through the tunnel. That was amazing to just think of how the tunneling system was done back then, and then just the sheer size. And they were talking about that too, about being the largest, and who can claim that? But I
Mm-hmm.
love that. Yeah, that you're the best, and you're definitely the best for Chicago. And I think the part of it is the pride that you take in that work. I'm interested to know how you know instill that in your team. I know I didn't set you up for this question, but there's you know that there is a part of leadership that comes in on telling the story and then just your people. Um, can you talk to that at all?
So I'm passionate about it. I think it's an important resource. I understand that, I was put here in order to make things better. I want to be a contributing member to society. And I think it's super important that people have this clean water, to have a really good place where we can get from water, because there's other parts of this world, but they don't have these types of resources. So I don't take it for granted one bit. I think it's important that we are operating and maintaining efficiently and effectively.
Awesome. Well, that's what I couldn't have said it better myself, and that's why I asked you to come on, Brian, because I could see that passion and I could see the steps that have to be taken. You're going to work with the existing equipment that you have. What can you do with that, and then how you add to it? And there's stages at the plant itself, and just looking backwards at how far we've come from the start. It really is phenomenal. So anytime that y'all get a chance to, while you're in Chicago, Brian has an amazing tour, so y'all connect with him so that you can see that. And then I will just do a couple little rapid fires. I love doing this. It just humanizes people, Brian. So
Sure.
throw out a couple of crazy questions at you. They're really not. What is your favorite book?
My favorite book, boy, I really love A Walk in the Woods, where Bill Bryson, who walked about his story about the Appalachian Trail. That's one of my favorites because
Awesome.
I
Awesome.
really love the
Awesome.
hike.
I'm gonna check that out. And then favorite music, probably while you're hiking. No, you're probably zoning out while hiking.
I listen to everything. So, yep, no, really have a favorite preference. Classic rock. I recently went to the Dave Matthews Band concert. So,
That was fun.
yeah, so that was a
Okay.
couple weekends ago. So I love all types of music.
Awesome. And then what is the best advice you've ever received?
Oh boy. Be kind, caring, loving, contributing member to society. That's what my parents always told me.
Yep, I think you're definitely doing that. So kudos to your family. And then if you could tell a young person coming into the industry, what advice would you give them?
Do something that you love, because then it'll make going to work a lot easier.
Yes. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Brian, if anybody wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
My email address, levyb@mwrd.org.
Got it. And I guess with that, y'all make sure you like, share, do all that, subscribe, and really just tell somebody about the importance of water today and the importance of the people behind the scenes taking care of it. We always talk about all of these, equipment and the water itself being vital to life, but the people behind that is what's making it happen. So thank a water operator today. And until next time, be empowering. Thanks,
Take
Brian.
care.